All right, good evening, baseball fans. This is the Bicoastal Baseball Podcast on the Grid Network, the only exclusive baseball podcast on the Grid Network. I'm Mike Guido. That is Dalton Brown. As per usual, arise and shine, Dalton Brown. I figured you might get a kick out of the title this week, but I guess more of a kick out of your hat right now.
I'm getting a kick out of my hat. I went to the FanDuel Kentucky Derby party on Friday, which I guess if you gamble a certain amount with FanDuel, they start inviting you to parties with open bars. So that was pretty fun.
Least they can do, right?
Yeah. It was a hilarious combination of Neo and then Luke Bryan live back to back.
That's cool.
It was cool. I'm sitting there watching Neo do his thing, and I see the news come through about the Arraez trade. So excited to talk a little bit about that. Excited to talk about my streaking Dodgers and a number of other things. But I figured I had to give this hat one turn on the show because it's cool.
You have to. There's no other choice. And this is, I mean, listen, it's interesting that you were able to see Luke Bryan live, given the fall he took the weekend prior at his concert. Did you see that?
I heard of it.
Took a fall on stage, but he seems to be okay. No IL for him. Wish we could say the same about some of these other guys. But all right, plenty of stuff to go over today. Big news of the weekend. Luis Arraez gets traded to the San Diego Padres from the Miami Marlins. We'll touch on that trade a little bit later today. The Dodgers, and I'm sure this is going to be part of Dalton's Dodger rant, but we're going to touch on it in a 1-2-3 inning anyway. The Dodgers sweeping the Braves in Los Angeles. I mean, that we said on Wednesday, since our last show was on Wednesday, we were kind of previewing this series, saying this is going to be, it's going to be an interesting series to see how that plays out. Potential NLCS preview for the playoffs this year. And the Dodgers not only beat them, but smoked them. I mean, it was kind of an uneventful series to a certain extent. We'll touch a little bit on the Phillies because as good as the Braves are, right, and they took a tumble a little bit this weekend, obviously playing the Dodgers, but the Phillies have been playing great baseball, so we'll touch on them, see how legitimate they are as contenders for the NL East. We'll touch on that. Plus, we have live score updates. I have something that I kind of want to discuss with you about the other end of the Arraez trade with the Miami Marlins. Them pretty much saying in early May, we're done. We're giving up already. That's, I think, something that's worth discussing as well. So we'll touch on that also. Plus, end of the show today, best segment on the planet is Dalton's Hot Corner. Find ways to put more money in your pocket. And how do you not trust a guy to put more money in your pocket when he gets invited to a FanDuel party wearing that schnazzy hat right there?
It should be noted too, because I don't know where they drew the threshold, but somebody on Twitter was thinking I got invited to that party because I've just donated a ton of money to FanDuel. Right. I will have you know I've wagered about 12,800 and I've gotten back about 13,600 or something like that. So I'm up somewhere between 500 and 1,000 all time. All right, very modest, but hey, I'm not just out here donating. I think it's important that people know that.
Hey, that's important, man. It's important. Yeah, listen, up is up. Doesn't matter how much. Up is up. All right. So as we do every single week, we cater to our own fan bases in the beginning. Sorry, not sorry. Yankees, Dodgers over there. So let's begin today with the Yankees rant of today. Listen, I don't have much to complain about at the moment. I mean, Yankees are off today, so I get a little bit of a breather, but a nice weekend sweep over the Tigers. And I don't want to boast about how the Tigers are some impressive team to sweep, because they're not. But this is a young team with a lot of good young players with some decent young pitching. And one of the things that I found impressive about what the Yankees did this weekend was they were seemingly finding ways to win, right? You saw on Friday that, I mean, they were getting absolutely shut out, and it was driving me crazy, right? You just, the ebbs and flow of this offense is just, it's unbelievable. The inconsistency of this offense, where they can put up 15 runs in 30 runs in 2 days and then immediately get shut out the next day. It's frustrating for me. but finding a way, finally getting some much needed clutch time production from the middle of their order. Stanton, Judge, Anthony Rizzo, those guys in the middle of the order producing for them. A beautiful drag bunt by Alex Verdugo, some small ball. I love that. So taking a win there. And kind of, I mean, I just want to kind of point this out. And I know that the final line of what Nestor Cortez did on Sunday is not, it doesn't look like a great start. That was a great start. He carried one hit shutout baseball into the 7th inning and then gave up a couple of hits before they went to the pen. The earned runs that they gave up were on Ian Hamilton and not on him. So that was something that I think needs to be pointed out. And that was against Tarek Skubal, who, I mean, is emerging as one of the better pitchers in all of baseball at this point. And he's been immaculate again this season. But the Yankees were able to get to him early, and then they were able to hold on. Like, these are the kind of weekends where I'm like, you know what? It isn't the prettiest baseball in the world, but they're finding ways, which is something that they didn't do last year. They're finding ways to win baseball games. And I'll say one more thing. Aaron Judge is actually kind of starting to look like himself, right? Last like 13.
Crazy how that happens.
Right. It's nuts. But last 13 games, he's hitting over 300. He's really kind of turned it back on. Look, I know that we talk about, you know, his OPS still is not considered great, right? OPS generally considering if you're at around 800, that's about a pretty good OPS. Aaron Judge right now sitting at about 789, but I mean, look, you're talking about a consistent 900 OPS player, and I think he's going to end up getting there. He's been a really solid cog in the lineup for the past 2 weeks or so. So, listen, I don't have much to complain about, Dalton. The bullpen's been immaculate. It's been a solid week for me. Got to admit.
Yeah, I mean, you know, look, and the week starts with you lose 2 out of 3 in Baltimore.
Yeah,
which is a little bit
3 out of 4,
right?
3 out of 4 in Baltimore.
3 out of 4, which is deflating, right? Because you know that's the team that you're competing with at the top of that division, at least as of now. And
right,
you know, it feels like one of those things where it's like, man, like we had a chance to go in there and kind of prove something, and instead they proved something.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of frustration coming out of that, right? I mean, you get shut out in that series, and to go from that to then coming home and taking care of business the way you're supposed to against the Tigers with a sweep. Look, to turn that into a 4-3 week, it doesn't sound like much in the course of a season, but like that's the kind of turnaround series that tells you a little bit about a team. So, you know, I thought that was great from the Yankees. They're kind of continuing to do what they do. They're pitching really well. You know, I thought Friday night was, you know, you're sitting there and you're about to lose a game where the only run scored against you is a run that got walked in.
A run that got walked in, yep.
You know, so kind of shake the cobwebs on something like that. You know, you have a rough week in Baltimore. Friday night, that felt like kind of a little turning point for them. You know, you get a rally going off a good closer and Foley and kind of shake the cobwebs. So, yeah, I mean, not a ton for you to bitch and moan about this week with the Yankees. So,
nope.
Happy for you. I don't have to talk you off any ledges this week. And they got a fun series coming up, which we'll certainly talk about as we go along here.
Yeah, another series against Houston. I mean, the sweep early on in the year, the 4-game sweep in Houston early on in the year. They're at Yankee Stadium this time, so let's keep it going, baby.
Yeah. On the Dodgers, you know, it was a bit of a party this week, to be honest. And you know, it's funny because 2 weeks ago I sat here and I was like, look, Dodgers hit a cold stretch for about a week. It's going to happen over the course of 162 a couple times.
Yep.
And now here they are. I think it's 12 of 14 that they've won now. Massive sweep over the Braves. We'll talk more about that, so I won't beat a dead horse about it too much. But you know, the thing I'm most excited about with the Dodgers is we get to see Walker Buehler pitch tonight. You know, and it's been eons since we've gotten to see him pitch. Now, I do want to temper expectations a little bit. You know, this is a guy who hasn't pitched in a major league game in a couple of years. He hasn't exactly torn it up in his rehab starts. He looks like a pitcher who hasn't pitched in a while. And I think we kind of have to be okay with that tonight. That's the nice thing about starting your team back in against the Marlins. So, you know, I'm hoping we get a solid start from him tonight. I don't plan on overreacting one way or another.
Yeah.
I'd like to see him look good. I do think it's worth noting, before his injury, we had the sticky stuff crackdown, and he had started to look shaky. So I wouldn't expect him to come out and be this fireballing problem child like he was before. I think we're going to have to get a little bit more finesse out of Bueller. I think a couple Tommy Johns will do that to a guy, and I think he's going to have to make some adjustments to his game. But he's a bulldog. Like, I'm excited to have him back because he's the kind of guy that, like, I just trust. So, yeah. All good stuff with the Dodgers right now, man. Not a whole lot to complain about. We're kind of right where I thought we'd be at this point. Yankees and Dodgers both 23-13. So, yeah, man, moving along.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, it might be a little bit of a buffer tonight for Walker Buehler since he is facing a Luis Arraez-less Miami Marlins team at Dodger Stadium. So that takes a very solid bat out of that lineup. So he doesn't have to deal with him. However, he does need to deal with him in San Diego. He'll be seeing him much more often then. But yeah, listen, you're right on Walker Buehler, man. I mean, I think you're right about having tempered expectations, right? I mean, his last full season was 2021, and it was a near Cy Young year, right? He was fantastic. 33 starts, an ERA under 2.5, like really, really solid stuff. And then again, 2022, I mean, he made 12 starts. It wasn't a full season, but his ERA was about 4. So the last time you saw Walker Buehler was not him off of his best stuff. And again, missing near 2 seasons full is tough. So I think you do need to temper expectations tonight. But again, maybe a little bit of a buffer against the Marlins tonight. Rodri Munoz is the starting pitcher for Miami tonight.
Can't tell you a whole lot about him. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't think you can. I will say this though, he's got a 2.46 ERA right now, so he's kind of lighting it up. I'd be pretty scared if I were you.
Yeah, and you know what, the thing about the Dodgers that you know, if you watch the Dodgers as much as I have over the years, you get this big home emotional series against Atlanta over the weekend, and you sweep them, and everybody's patting you on the back, and the stadium's jumping. I mean, Dodger Stadium jumps every night relative to a lot of others, but like now you get Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday afternoon at home against the lowly Marlins. Like, I'm just saying, I would not be the most shocked person in the world if we come out and just like sleepwalk for a couple nights and lose 2 out of 3. Like,
well, hey, listen,
I'm not saying to expect it, but I've seen them do shit like that before.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, that's why I didn't pick them in Survivor Pool. They're due for a lull. Anyway, so let's give you a quick score update first before we head into the 1-2-3 inning. The Giants fell to the Phillies in Philadelphia earlier today, 6-1. We'll talk about the Phillies a little bit later, but that team, they're playing really good baseball right now. We'll touch on that a little bit later. The Guardians right now on top of the Tigers, 2-1 in the top of the 8th. The Pirates over the Angels in Pittsburgh at the moment, 4-1 in the bottom of the 7th. The Rays leading the White Sox 4-2. What else is new? Well, hey, I shouldn't say that. Hold your horses, right? Rays got swept by the White Sox. I shouldn't be so quick to speak. But
yeah,
top
but
of the fifth.
You forget we got to have another bee disaster before the White Sox pull off.
That's true. That's right. 4-2, top of the 5th. Rays lead over the White Sox. The Brewers right now heading into the bottom of the 5th with the Royals up 2-0 in Kansas City. Still scoreless in the bottom of the 3rd between the Mariners and the Twins. Again, still scoreless in the top of the 3rd with the Padres and Cubs. And the Mets right now jumping out to a 1-0 lead in the bottom of the 2nd in St. Louis against the Cardinals. Rangers and A's will start at 9:40 tonight. Andrew Heaney against Alex Wood. And like we just said, Marlins and Dodgers at Dodger Stadium. It's Rodri Munoz against Walker Buehler making his season debut. Okay, so let's start right here with the 1-2-3 inning. The big news of the weekend: Luis Arraez gets traded from the San Diego Padres. From the Miami Marlins to the San Diego Padres, and the return. I mean, in my eyes, I thought the return was actually fairly good. The Marlins got outfielder Dylan Head. He was their number 6 overall prospect, probably a borderline top 100 guy. Dylan Head. Jacob Marcy, the Padres number 9 prospect, another outfielder. First baseman / outfielder Nathan Martorella, their number 13 prospect over there in San Diego. There's actually the funny video of him finding out the news that he was traded while he was on second base in a minor league game. And also the right-handed relief pitcher that they just signed this past offseason in Woo-Suk Go ends up going to the Marlins as well. So 4-for-1 deal. Luis Arraez goes to the San Diego Padres. And what does he do in his first game? What is it, 4 hits in his first game? It's what the guy does, man. I don't know what to tell you. So Dalton, let me ask you first. You're the NL West guy. And listen, it just seems like almost every week that we're on, like these NL West teams find a way to reinforce themselves, right? Blake Snell signs, Jordan Montgomery signs, Dylan Cease gets traded to the Padres. Now Luis Arraez gets traded to the Padres. Like all these teams are kind of reinforcing themselves in an effort to beat the Dodgers at the top of the division. At least that's what we can perceive. So what do you make of this trade of Luis Arraez going to the Padres?
It is so Padres, and it's also so Marlins. Like, it's such a fitting deal on both sides. Like, from the Padres side, I'll start there. I mean, they're a team that already fields, 8, 9 shortstops out there every night. Why not add another middle infielder? Like, why not? You know, you can just make the whole team out of middle infielders and see what happens. Look, Luis Arraez is a very solid player. The Tony Gwynn comparisons are really funny. But look, this is a guy who's going to hit for average. He's not going to do a whole lot more than that, but he's going to hit for average, and there's certainly a use for that. He makes them better. Does it make a ton of sense to give up a whole bunch of prospect capital for Luis Arraez in May? Maybe, I don't know. To me, the Padres sitting at 17 and 19, I think they were when they made the deal, and like immediately pulling the trigger on parting with prospects for Luis Arraez is just, it's extremely AJ Preller, right? It's a team that consistently seeks separation in their decision making. They buy high on every player that they buy in on, and they sell low on every player that they sell on, and that's why they don't get over the hump. So like, it's not like it's a bad deal. It's fine. Like, I think he's going to be a solid player for them. I don't think it puts them over the edge, but I think they were a good team, and I think they still are a good team. Yeah. From the Marlins perspective, again, it's also just classic Marlins, right? Peter Bendik's coming out and talking about how, well, we're not going to make the playoffs. Like, dude, we're a month into the season.
Yeah, that's true. That was nuts.
Like, the Nationals in 2019, when they won the World Series, started with a very similar, I forget what it was, but they started with a very similar record to this. And I'm not saying he's wrong or that the Marlins are some playoff contender. I just feel like this eagerness to give up is very Marlins. And it's also like they're not that far away from the contender that they were last year. I mean, the pitching injuries are really what's making this year a wash. But you don't have to sell everything because your pitchers are hurt this year. And I hope they don't. Like, I hope they hold on to some pieces, because when that pitching staff is hopefully healthier in 2025, there's no reason that team can't be competitive again, unless they decide not to be, which would be very Marlins.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really kind of interesting because, and these are the lineups and rotations that we pulled from Fangraphs before the season when we were doing previews. Obviously, minus Luis Arraez in this lineup. I mean, I would imagine you're probably starting Nick Gordon at second base a lot of the time, but I mean, just touching on the rotation injuries, Alcantara's out. Yuri Perez is out. Edward Cabrera's out. Braxton Garrett's out, right? I mean, you're relying on a lot of arms that just don't have tons of, seasoning on them. Obviously, we like Jesus Luzardo. AJ Puck was primarily in the bullpen for most of his career, so it's interesting what they're kind of doing. And I think you're right about the actual Arraez angle to this, right? The Padres. I was thinking similarly to how you were. I texted you the night of this the trade, and you got back to me the next day. You were just like, "This is so This is just what they do. Like, this is so
Yeah.
Padres. They always buy so high at the top of the market for these guys. And if there was a team that, I mean, we've kind of grown accustomed to this over the past couple of seasons. If there was a team that was going to make a trade in early May of this magnitude, it would have been a team like the San Diego Padres that do this. And listen, there's no doubt in his value, right? And I think especially in that lineup, like, Luis Arraez really can be kind of a table setter in that lineup. This was already a team that could hit. I mean, you get a guy who can just simply, one of the things that Luis Arraez does almost better than anybody in baseball is he just simply puts the ball in play. Like that guy just even if it's just a weak ground ball to short, like, he puts pressure on a defense virtually every at bat. So that's something that I think is very important, especially with a team that has that strong of a middle of the order with Machado and Bogarts, Tatis Jr., Campusano, Ha-Sung Kim, Cronenworth. Like, those are real hitters in the middle of that lineup. Now you have a table setter, a true table setter at the top of that lineup. I think it could definitely be valuable to them. Again, how far that gets them, I mean, listen, like, it still doesn't put you past the Dodgers, right? I'm not sure what move you could make that would, but again, we've also seen in the past couple of years that maybe you don't need to be past the Dodgers, right? Like, this is one of those, things where, like, yeah, the Dodgers right now and the Braves, whoever, look like juggernauts. But, I mean, you saw what the Diamondbacks did. You saw what the Rangers did. You saw what the Phillies did a couple of years ago. Like, it's there. I see the strategy here.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's such a mixed feeling with the Padres because, like, I want to mock them because it is very Padres to just be like, let's go get the shiny thing when it's at its shiniest and pay full price for it and do it before everybody else and be in the headlines. Like, this has been what they've been doing for like several years now. But like, it is a good team. Like, that's what I think gets lost in all of this. And I've been saying it since preseason. Like, this is a good team. Like, this bullpen is excellent. The rotation is solid.
Yeah.
And the lineup was already pretty good and now got even better. So I think, like, there's no, it's such a weird dichotomy, my opinions of the Padres. Like, I really like some of the things that they've done. But I also just, like, kind of think they're a clown car at the same time, where it's like, I take them serious I take them seriously as a competitor, but I don't take them seriously as, like, anything more than that. So
as an organization, really, it's hard to do that. I do want to kind of touch a little bit more on what is happening here with the Marlins, right? Because one of the videos that surfaced was the Marlins GM making an evaluation on their catchers, right? Which is Christian Bethancourt and Nick Fortes, who are not they're definitely not offensively productive, right? And, he just kind of has this, weird smile on his face and just like, it's too early to make an evaluation. And everything. So the internet blew up, right? Because it's just like, oh, look at this nerd and whatever. He took one sabermetrics class or something like that. And now he's the G, whatever. But anyway, the internet blew up with that. And then I find it kind of funny even that not too long after that, we're finding that, okay, Arraez is gone. And it's very clear, like, and it's their words, not ours, right? It's their words of them saying, yeah, we're likely not to make the playoffs this season. You already can't get fans in the ballpark. Like, this is a team that, like, I mean, how many seats do they sell a night? 3,000? They have a 65,000 seat stadium, and they can't fill it even kind of. Like,
no, it only seats like 35, but still, I mean, it's a
punch in the face, right?
Yeah, well, but Marlins fans' faces have been bruised up and battered and black-eyed for years, right? I mean, this is what happens when you're a Marlins fan, and I mean, I think, like, kudos to Marlins fans who stick with it and are loyal to their city. I respect the hell out of it, but this is what happens, and it's an organization that, like, Miami should be such a great baseball market.
Yeah.
Like there is so much good baseball played down there.
Yeah.
And like if you go to a University of Miami baseball game, it's an awesome environment with the Mark Light milkshakes and everything else. Like it really should be a great baseball environment down there, but the major league franchise just does not take itself seriously. And so how can anybody else?
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
there's
No,
for me, yeah.
That's definitely fair. I mean, listen, I played, you and I both played baseball growing up at decently high levels. The baseball down in Florida competitively it's there, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the places you go are Southern California, Texas, Florida. I mean, those are known as kind of the baseball hubs of the country because they play all year round. I mean, that's the discussion here in New York all the time, right? Is like those places get tons of attention from scouts and from wherever. Like the baseball is just better there because they play it 12 months out of the year instead of us where we play it 3. Like it's a different thing. So you're 100% right. It should be a great baseball environment, but it just simply is not. All right, let's move on to this. The Dodgers with a, might I say, massive sweep of the Braves in Los Angeles, and you can see the ever-glowing smile on Dalton Brown's face at this very moment, wearing that luscious hat of his. He cannot wait to talk about this series. So 4-3 extra inning game. Dodgers win in the first game of the series on Friday, 11-2 on Saturday, 5-1 on Sunday. Big sweep for the Dodgers. So, Dalton, what do you make of it? Are the Dodgers this much better than the Braves at this point?
No, absolutely not. Look, it was a fun weekend, but it's May, right? And I had as much fun watching it as you think I had. It was awesome. If you can't enjoy regular season games and get excited about them, then you're not a baseball fan, right? Like, obviously, you want to get it done in October. That doesn't mean you can't enjoy the journey along the way. So, enjoyed watching it as a fan. Fun to get after that team a little bit. Good to know that it's there, right? But at the end of the day, like Ohtani got to Fried in the first inning yesterday. Other than that, Fried was pretty damn good. Gave up a couple homers, but other than that, he was pretty damn good. I think Paxton had his best game of the season yet. If he pitches like he did in a number of the other games, it probably didn't go so well either. But look, like the things that I'm most encouraged by right now, Gavin Stone's a dude. Like we talked about this on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Like, hey, if he can do it against the Braves, like then I'm all the way bought in. 6 innings, a 1-run ball against the Braves. Like Gavin Stone is a guy. Like he's good. Glass now continues to do what he does. Shohei Ohtani is, I mean, like what can you say about the guy?
A man possessed? I don't know.
I mean, at this point, it's probably a 2-man race for MVP if the season were to end today between Betts and Ohtani, which is pretty nuts. There have been 2 sets of players all time to both have 50 hits, 30 runs, 25 RBIs, and 5 homers at the 36-game mark. Mookie Betts and Shohei Ohtani this year, and Lefty O'Doul and Chuck Klein for the Philadelphia Phillies in 1929. This is from @JCuda on Twitter. They're the only 2 pairs of players to ever do that through the first 36 games of the season. I mean, it's like what the Dodgers have been doing has been fun, but really what Ohtani has been doing and what Betts has been doing is just completely like absurd. Yep. I mean, Ohtani's sitting here, he's batting .364 with 10 homers. I mean, he's on pace, for almost 60 homers. So it's been special. It's been fun. This weekend was really fun. Yeah. But I'll say the same thing that I would have said if the Dodgers had gotten swept. It's early May. It is what it is. You'd rather win than lose, but like either way, to act like this has some sort of premonition for October, it's not. It's just not.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because it doesn't look like, I mean, at especially at this very moment, that we're getting the best out of Ronald Acuna, right? He's had a very timid start
Although he had a great series. He was one of the Braves that had a great series, and he loves hitting at Dodger Stadium. So
Yeah.
maybe that series kind of woke him up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, look, it's like with Judge, right? Like great players can start cold, and a lot of times it's just a buy signal.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, there's definitely some truth to that, and I agree with you. It's and it's unfortunate, right, for us. I mean, because I mean, I feel like a lot of what we say in these shows early on in the season it's early because it is, right?
Yeah.
Once we get into the dog days of summer, I think our tune is going to change. We'll start getting a real feel for things, but that is the reality. This, I mean, like I said, I wouldn't read too much into this as far as the, just, oh, well, the Braves can't compete. Like, no, they can. like anybody who's really saying that, like, oh, well, the Dodgers have their number. Well, I wouldn't really say that yet. They don't. However, I do think that this might play for the Braves, right? The Braves know how good they are. And I don't care what they say as professionals, right? Because every time they're going to go play the Pirates or something like that and be like, hey, everybody's a professional, right? Like they're not looking at a Pirates series the same way that they are a Dodger series. They know that the Dodgers are the Everest that they need to eclipse, right? They don't get to play the Dodgers again until September.
Yeah.
Like, like nobody is going to be able to convince me that for the next 4 months until they play again, the Braves aren't going to look at that series and be like, okay, that's the target, right? Like they're going to look at that series and they're going to have to weigh on, like, listen, the last time we played the Dodgers, they cooked us. And that's going to be on their mind for 4 straight months. Nobody could convince me of that otherwise.
Yeah. No, look, they're going to have that series circled in September as well. They
Certainly.
should. Any competitive entity would. Um, if I'm a Braves fan, part of me thinks that like it's not the worst thing to get your butt kicked in that series a little bit, right? I mean, the Braves are a team that like through the first several, I mean, they were 20-9 coming into that series. They were number one in all the power ratings. Like they had been awesome even without Strider. And so sometimes you need a series like that to kind of, like get you woken up a little bit.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, it was a bad road trip for them overall too. They lost 2 out of 3 in Seattle to start the road trip. Their offense has kind of just been scuffling a bit. But I compare it to the Dodgers of 2 weeks ago, where it's like, yeah, look, really good teams are going to go through some doldrums. And if you're going through your doldrums while you happen to be traveling out to LA to play the Dodgers, it's not going to go well. Like just like if the Dodgers are cold in early September when they go to Atlanta, they're going to get their ass kicked too.
Yeah.
It's baseball. But yeah, no, I don't disagree with you at all. They're going to have that series circled.
Yeah, they absolutely will. Just some short-sightedness, right? The next 5 games on the Braves schedule, how they're going to finish the week. It's a quick 2-game pit stop at home against the Red Sox, and then they go to Queens and play the Mets over the weekend for a 3-game set. You think the offense gets going then? It's tough to predict. I understand that, but what do you think? Gut feeling.
My gut feeling is always to bet on the Braves offense. So yeah, you know what I mean.
Right.
I would think so.
Yeah. All right. Let's shift over to the third out. Really, what a great series by the Dodgers, sweeping the Braves over the weekend. Third out. Let's talk about the Phillies for a minute, because at this very moment, the Phillies right now are, what are they? Are they tied, or do they have? Nope, they have the lead right now overall in the win column. They're 25-11. They're 3 games into first place in the NL East over the Braves. Listen, they're playing great baseball, right?
Yeah.
This is one of these teams that, I think we all kind of expected them to be like, I viewed the Phillies similarly to how I view the Yankees, right? Very like on top of the world when things are going right, and they can look catastrophically bad when it's going wrong, right? It's a very boom or bust kind of team, but it's been way more boom than bust so far this season. They right now, they just took a 4-game sweep They just completed a 4-game sweep at home against the Giants over the weekend and today. They then have a quick 2-game home series against the Blue Jays. They go at the Marlins. They split a home and away series with the Mets. They play the Nationals. I mean, they could really pile on here. So, Dalton, what do you think? I mean, obviously, I think we already, we all thought that Atlanta and Philly were going to fight for this division earlier on in the preseason. But, I mean, the Phillies look really good right now. Where do you see that stacking up? Like we say all the time, it's early, but what do you think right now?
So I think it's worth asking the question, like, are they just as good as the Braves, if not better?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that as a reaction to this weekend, but like, if we take stock of these rotations where they stand right now, like with what Ranger Suarez has been for the Phillies, not just this year, but for quite a while now, like he's a stud. Christopher Sanchez has proved to be a very capable rotation piece for them. And then you look at like Wheeler's doing his thing. Like if Aaron Nola can pitch well, like that's a really good rotation.
Spencer Turnbull has a 1.5.
Turnbull has looked good, but we saw flashes of that with him in Detroit too, right? So like if Philly can, like if this is what their rotation is, this is one of the best teams in baseball.
Oh,
because we know what that lineup can do, right? And the bullpen is actually looking good. I'm not seeing too many holes in the Phillies now. I think if things go wrong for them, I think it's going to happen on the pitching side. Like I think you're going to, I think you might see Christopher Sanchez come crashing down to earth.
Yeah.
You might see Aaron Nola start to get hit around a little bit. Maybe Ranger Suarez loses the strike zone. They don't have a ton of depth if they have an injury to the pitching staff. So like, there are holes. This is not some like perfectly built team, but they're going to be aggressive at the deadline.
Yeah.
And at this point, it's pretty safe to say they're going to be in it. I think what I think is really fascinating is right now at DraftKings, the Braves are still minus 220 to win that division. Phillies 185. I'm not reaching to bet the Phillies right now because I think you'd be buying high on them, and you always want to buy high, sell low. It goes. But like that also doesn't feel right to me. Like I kind of feel like those odds should be a little tighter at this point.
Yeah.
Based on what we've seen from Philly. I mean, this is a team that's now won 10 out of 11. They just swept the Giants in completely dominant fashion at home. We're starting to see some of that dominance that we see from them in the postseason at home. We're starting to kind of see that in the regular season too.
Yeah.
And now this is a team that they play a struggling Blue Jays team the next couple nights. And then what do they do this weekend? They go play the Fish this weekend. Like, I mean,
yeah. Right.
Like,
that's what I was saying before is they play the Fish, then they play the Mets, and then they play the Nationals. Like their schedule for the next 2 weeks is pretty soft.
Yeah. I mean, there's no real reason that team can't like I'll put it this way. If Atlanta continues to scuffle, even play like 500 ball for the next 2 weeks, who's to say Philly doesn't open up an 8-game lead?
Yeah. Right.
And at that point, we're definitely not looking at Philly plus 185 to win that division. So, no, I think Philadelphia is a real World Series contender. Like, nobody wants to play them in October. Like, we know what that ballpark's like in October. Nobody wants to go in there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's a really interesting team. One of the more fun teams to watch in baseball right now.
And I think they've been that. I mean, the past couple of years, the Phillies are always an incredibly fun watch. They really are. I mean, they, like I said before, when they get going, they hit the ever-loving piss out of the baseball.
Yeah.
They just do. I mean, they've got so many boppers in that lineup that it's insane, right? Like, and especially with some of the seasons that some of these guys are having, right? Alec Boehm is off to a great start. Trey Turner is off to a really great start. He just hit the IL, but when he comes back, I'm sure he'll be right as rain. But like, they're going to hit the ever-loving piss out of the baseball. They're striking out guys. They are the second best team in baseball in K/9. They are striking out dudes left and right. They're not even giving up contact, right? Their team ERA, and this was something that we saw as an issue play out just from a consistency standpoint over the past couple of years, where their pitching has been a little bit wishy-washy. They're 8th in the league in ERA, right? They've got a 3.36 team ERA. That's more than respectable for a team that hits as well as they do, right? You know that they are going to score runs. They're averaging 9 hits a game. Like that, this is a team that is legitimately going to pour it on you. So I don't think that it's like, I think that most people, and as much as we thought so highly of the Braves, and I think we still do, but we kind of thought, yeah, the Phillies are going to punch at this division, but at the end of the day, like the Braves are going to, I mean, they're the better baseball team. Like they're going to end up coming out on top, whether you like it or not.
And I still think they will.
Well, hey, listen, and they absolutely could, but I think the surety in that is definitely wavering, at least at this point.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, to me, and I naturally always think of these things as like from a betting perspective, right?
Yeah.
I hope a week from now we've seen like a hot week from the Phillies and a just okay week from the Braves. Because like if you can get Atlanta like below minus 170 or minus 160 win that division, like you have to look at betting it,
right?
Because there's so much season left. Like, so like again, right? It goes back to the same theme we've had this whole show throughout the last couple of weeks, which is like, we want to be careful about overreactions. We want to fade them, but
right, yeah.
What we're seeing from Philly is not like fake. Like this team's really good.
No, it is good.
So yeah,
it's good, and I think that they're better this year from like early on in the season. This is the best that they've looked in years past, right? Like I don't remember that they've started this good. I mean, they always seem to finish well, but I don't know that they've ever I shouldn't say ever, but in recent years, I don't think they've started this well. I mean, they're really piling it on early this season.
Yeah, and it makes that ballpark that much more electric throughout the summer too.
No
Like I do
kidding.
think matters in a place like Philadelphia.
It absolutely does. All those Philly assholes that just just can't stop it. You guys aren't assholes. I'm just poking fun at you.
Mike, you got to be willing to just call people assholes. Just do it.
I'm a peacemaker, Dalton. You know me. But let's take a look real quick at the standing projections from earlier on in the year, just to gain a little bit of perspective here. Last year, obviously, the Braves with 104-58 record, Philly at 90-72. Pacoda kind of predicted somewhat of a similar lead in the division. Atlanta with a 101-61, the Phillies at 85-77. And I think at that point, even you and I said I might be a little bit modest for the Phillies, but like, just to give you an idea, like that's what people were thinking, right? Like that is what people thought earlier on in the year. Like, yeah, the Phillies are really good, but they're not close to the Braves. It looks like they are close to the Braves.
They are. I mean, and maybe we should. I'm thinking we probably shouldn't be as surprised by it as we are, but
yeah.
No, I mean, it's interesting. Their win total right now at ESPN bet is all the way up to 95.5 after a Pacoda projection of 85. I mean, that's as big of a difference as you can get through a month.
Yeah, no kidding. Absolutely no kidding. All right. So that concludes the 1-2-3 inning. Let's give you another score update. As we mentioned before, Phillies over the Giants 6-1. 2 games came to conclusion. The Guardians with a 2-1 win over the Tigers in Cleveland. Survivor pool, baby. Let's go. 2-1 Guardians win over the Tigers in Cleveland. The Pirates with a 4-1 win over the Angels in Pittsburgh. Actually, before we keep going, let me circle back. Are you buying into the Guardians yet or no?
No. No.
Still no.
I won't after this week either, because they should have a great week.
22-12. They're starting off good.
Yeah, I mean, it's cute. I think I'm not saying that they're bad, but I mean, like, are we really wanting to buy into like a rotation of Tanner Bybee at his 4.5 ERA? We got Ben Lively covering starts for them. Like Logan Allen. like Tristan McKenzie at like half mast because he's just not there. He can barely throw the ball. I mean, I know he looked good again tonight. Good for him. But like, come on, like we're gonna buy into this Cleveland team doing it for 6 months. They can do it for a month, maybe 2, fine. But especially after that Twins win streak, I'm buying Twin stock, baby.
Yeah. Well, hey, listen, you're not going to get an argument from me. I mean, I like the Twins. I really do like the Twins. But I will say this. If you're a Cleveland fan, cover your ears when Dalton Brown talks, man. Holy moly.
I mean, look, I'm fun. Right? Like, hey, shit on me on Twitter as the season goes along, right? If you clinch the division, whatever, get after me. That's fine. I'm just like, I'll put it this way: I'm not bought in on Cleveland being great any more than I'm bought in on like, oh, the Braves are just okay all of a sudden. Like, no, this is baseball.
Yeah, that's right. All right. So moving on. The Rays right now with a 7-2 lead, really sticking it to the White Sox, getting their revenge in the bottom of the 6th in Tampa Bay. That's right. No more embarrassment for the Tampa Bay Rays. Milwaukee up 2-0 on the Royals in Kansas City in the bottom of the 7th. The Twins with a 1-0 lead over Seattle in the Twin Cities in the bottom of the 5th. Padres and Cubs still scoreless in the top of the 5th. Who's getting the start for Chicago? It's Justin Steele. Justin Steele, 4 1/3, 2 hits, no earned runs. His ERA is sitting at 1 at the moment, Dalton.
Well, this is his second game back from injury.
Okay. So, but even still, I mean, look, they get him back healthy and pitching well. And with as good as Shota Imanaga has been, like, first of all, Shota Imanaga looks like he's the best pitcher in baseball at the moment. But this Cubs team is interesting.
They're good, man. It's a good ball club. Like the Cubs are right there in that, like, and the Padres are 18-19, so the records don't look similar. But like the Cubs to me are right there in that Padres neighborhood of like, it's not a great club, but it's a good club. Like that's a playoff team.
Yeah.
Especially, man, Imanaga, like, looks awesome, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a solid rotation. It's a solid bullpen. It's a well above average lineup.
Yeah.
It's, kind of like the Dodgers and Braves are like kind of great. I mean, I don't think the Dodgers bullpen is great, but like in theory it is, right? Yeah. The Cubs and Padres are like good if you look across the 3 phases. And those are teams that are going to make the wild card. And look, there's no reason at all that the Cubs can't be what the Diamondbacks were last year or the Padres were the year before.
Yeah, right.
That's the beauty of making it in.
Yep. It's just, again, it goes to show you on this rotation, Imanaga's ERA is below 1. Javier Assad has a 1.66 ERA at the moment through 7 starts. That's not anything to sneeze at. No. Jameson Taillon in 4 starts is an ERA just over 1. I mean, they're getting production out of guys, man. Production.
Yeah. And like it's funny because it's not a rotation that like is intimidating at all.
No.
Postseason series, right? But then again, like was Arizona last year? I mean, I get that Gallen was good, but like nobody was really scared of facing Merrill Kelly or Brandon Pfaadt. But like,
yeah,
man, if you can just get there and have arms that are hot, like, I mean, like Hayden Wesneski. I mean, hey, good for them.
Great Hayden Wesneski. Yep.
For your boy.
Oh boy! But again, scoreless, top of the 5th, Padres and Cubs. 3-0 Mets in the top of the 5th over the Cardinals in St. Louis. The Cardinals continue to prove me wrong about them. It just feels great.
They suck.
They are not a good baseball team. What are they right now? They're 15-19, last place in the division. Yeah, I'm giving up. I'm out. I'll be like the Marlins GM on them. I'm out. Start selling everybody.
It's aggressive, but I do wonder, man. Like, what happens? Like, what do the Cardinals break it up at some point? Like, do Goldie or Arenado end up on the move, or
I don't know.
We're nowhere near there yet, but Man, that franchise selling is just hard to imagine.
Yeah. I mean, listen, they have young talent, but it's a lot of aging players that are on the wrong side of 30, right? Like Goldschmidt's what, 37 or something like 37, 38 years old.
Yeah, it's
Like,
awful.
yeah. Yeah. But yeah, I'd imagine at some point they've got to reach a breaking point. I mean, if they're at the deadline and they're in last place again and they're whatever 15 games out of first or 16 games out of first, like at what point do you just say, okay, you know what? Here you go.
Yeah,
Right.
cut bait, man. Like,
Yeah.
because you can. I mean, especially if Arenado and Goldschmidt both look okay by that time, like
Yeah.
you can get good prospects for them, and they need them in that system. So
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Again, Marlins Dodgers a little bit later tonight. Rangers and A's. The A's right now are 17 and 18, Dalton. Look, I don't want to blow this up into a proportion where I think the A's are that good, because they're not. And they can't hit for shit. But they are a scrappy little team. They're fun, man. I like them.
yeah, I mean, it's you wonder if part of it's just that they're taking a lot of pride in being that like kind of nomadic team, and trying to kind of prove everybody wrong, and it's a fun story. I would love to see them, stay somewhat competitive throughout the season. I don't think they will, but hey, like good for them. It's the same thing I said last week. I'll say it again. Good for them.
Well,
It's adorable. I hope it continues for a little while.
well, hey, listen, whatever it was, a couple weeks ago, they split a 4-game series at Yankee Stadium with the Yankees. They took 2 out of 3 in Baltimore. They swept the Pirates, took 2 out of 3 from the Marlins. How impressive that is. But they beat the Marlins 20-4. They put up 20 on the Marlins the day they traded Arraez. So I'm sorry, the day after they traded Arraez. They're a fun little team, man. I almost, what's funny is I almost took the Rangers this week. I almost did instead of the Guardians. I almost took the Rangers, but I was too scared of them splitting with the A's. Like that's what I was afraid of.
I don't blame you. Like the A's they're kind of just pesky. They're just kind of getting in people's way. Unfortunately for them, this is their ceiling. Like their ceiling is let's go on a stretch where we're a little bit pesky.
Yeah.
Yeah. But hey, like I said, good for them. They're having fun. They're playing ball. They're having fun.
That's right. I agree. I enjoy watching them play. They're fun. Okay. Hey, listen, we're quick moving here today, Dalton Brown. We're already at hot corner, baby. Let's move. What do you have?
There's one thing I think we should get to. I want to talk about the series that we're each most excited about this week, because I think we're each going to have one for our own.
Oh, team. That's right. See, I'm the host of the show, and I don't even know how to direct. See,
yeah, I'm right here. I'm right here for you, man. We
got it. Thanks for picking up my slack. Yeah, man. Astros Yankees starts tomorrow. Verlander, Luis Heel, Arrighetti, and Rodon, and Ronel Blanco and Marcus Stroman are the pitching matchups right now. So, look, I think, and we've talked about this several times over the past couple of weeks. The Astros, I don't think, are at a point where you can say, like, don't worry about it, they'll bounce back. I think we're past that, right? Like, yes, it's early in the season, but they're 10 games under 500, and it doesn't really seem to be getting any better, right? And like I said, we've touched on that a few times. I mean, especially with what the Yankees are playing with right now, it wouldn't surprise me if the Yankees swept them again. It wouldn't. It wouldn't surprise me.
Not at all. I mean, I think I think this is kind of like for the Yankees, this is like kind of a fun rallying, like beat up on the bully moment.
Yeah.
Like I think that, like especially for weeknights, I think that stadium should be jumping the next couple nights.
No kidding.
with a bunch of real pissed off New Yorkers who want to get revenge on a team that's kind of had their number in important moments of the last few years.
Yeah.
You get a good chance to kick them when they're down here. I think the Yankees should relish that. I think great chance for Luis Gil to continue to prove that he's, a guy, especially going up against Verlander. And then obviously you look at game 2, Arrighetti has not looked very good.
Yeah, right.
And Rodon has looked good. But I think in general, it's a good litmus test for the Yankees starting pitching. Because if there's one thing Houston is, it's still a damn good lineup. And so I think, we're going to learn a little bit about Rodon. Like, is he all the way back? Well, this is a good way to test that,
He had a troubling start his last time out. This will be a solid test for him to kind of rebound off of that, definitely.
Yeah. Luis Gil, this is a good test for a guy like that. A little bit like Gavin Stone against the Braves last Friday. It's a good test for a young arm that you want to believe in. So it'll be a fun series. Anytime those two teams get together, it's pretty electric.
Yeah. We got any national TV games between these two? Or are we just...
I got to imagine they're on MLB Network.
They are on TBS tomorrow.
TBS.
They are on TBS tomorrow. 7:00. Again, Verlander and Gil. I have no doubt, but I've gotten to a point this year where Luis Gil is a guy that I genuinely trust. That dude's stuff is sick. It really the problem with him, right? Aside from his health concerns over the last couple of years, but the problem with him was command, right? He just couldn't find the zone consistently enough to not walk 4 or 5 guys a game. But I mean, now you're kind of seeing, and again, he has a start every now and then. He's had 1 or 2 starts this year where it's kind of gotten away from him a little bit. But when he does have any semblance of command of the strike zone, I mean, he's really fucking lights out. It's unbelievable how, dominant he can be. I have no doubt that he can go toe-to-toe with Verlander tomorrow night, without a doubt, in my mind.
Well,
so
I'll have more to say on that in a moment. I'll kind of tease that. But he's nasty.
He's crazy.
As far as my series, I'm kind of captivated by the week that the Padres are in the midst of in general.
Yeah.
Like going to Chicago and playing the Cubs, it's a good kind of test of hey, where are the Padres? Because the thing with the Padres that's troubling is when they play the Dodgers, there's a different energy in that dugout. They are top step of the dugout. They're loud. Every home run, every run driven in, they are pouring out of the dugout.
Right.
There's an energy around that team when they're playing the Dodgers. And then every time they play the Dodgers, they seem to go into another series and look like shit. They took 2 out of 3 from the Dodgers in LA a couple weeks ago. The Dodgers in that little swoon. And then they went to Colorado and looked awful. And it's very Padres. It's just kind of what they do. They get up for that series. They get all excited about it.
Yeah.
Series like this one where they're in Chicago, this is where they have to prove that they're not last year's Padres. It's hey, go into a series like that and win, right? Show that fight when you're not facing the Dodgers. This week for them, they get the Cubs at Wrigley, and then they come home to play the Dodgers again. And this is a Dodgers team that's playing a lot better baseball than the last time they saw them. This is the kind of week for the Padres where, man, if they go 4-2, man, I'm going to be pretty damn bought in on that team.
Right,
But this is also a week where, hey, they're sitting at 18 and 19 right now. If they're not careful, this could also be the week where it kind of starts to quickly spiral for them. So,
right.
I'm just interested to see how this week goes for the Padres. Petco Park, when the Dodgers come to town, is always even when the Padres were bad, those are fun series because the Dodger fans will fill up whatever seats the Padres fans don't.
Right.
And so these last couple of years, those series have been unbelievable down there because it's about 50-50 Dodgers and Padres fans.
Yeah.
And the crowd is just wild. I've been to a couple games down there with the Dodgers. It's wild. So those are always fun to watch.
Certainly.
It'll just be interesting to see how the Padres fare this week. kind of captivated by it.
Well, hey, when they play the Cubs, they're not getting an easy ride either. They get Imanaga tomorrow, and then they get Wisniewski on Wednesday. So tough luck.
And they're getting carved up by Steele tonight. So yeah. But look, I mean, Padres are throwing Cease, who's looked great on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So we'll see. As far as the hot corner, I hinted at it earlier. It's a play for tomorrow. Pretty straightforward. I like the Yankees on the money line, -120 over Houston. Given who these two teams are right now, I just don't think this number is adjusted enough. To me, I don't view Verlander against Heel as a big pitching mismatch. In fact, I probably favor Heel right now. The obvious concern, you touched on it with Heel, his walk rate is in the 7th percentile. Like he's walking 15% of the batters he faces. That's just too many, right?
Yeah.
But man, the other leading indicators with him are phenomenal. Expected ERA, 93rd percentile, 2.30. Expected batting average, 138, 99th percentile. Hard hit percentage, 27.9, 92nd percentile. Like all of the leading indicators with him are phenomenal. It's the kind of stuff that you see out of like an ace. So I think it's a bit of a coming out party opportunity for him against the Astros. I don't think that the Yankees have the lesser starting pitcher on the mound. And so because of that, I can't justify this game being as close to a pick'em as it is.
Yeah.
I think the Yankees should be more like a -150-ish favorite here. So getting -120 is a price I'm glad to pay. They're the hotter team. They're the way better bullpen.
Let me just capitalize on that just for a second. Because again, I'm watching this team every night.
Yeah.
I don't think the Yankee bullpen has given up an earned run in like 25 innings. Like they have been, and I'm not exaggerating. I think is I don't know what the actual number is.
Right, yeah.
But it's like they've gone like 2 weeks straight without giving up an earned run. Like that's how immaculate the Yankee bullpen has been. It's like polar opposites of what the Astros have been.
And that's the thing, right? Even if, like, let's say Verlander outdeals Luis Heel and you're down 3-1 going into the 6th. I'm not hating the Yankees' chances.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So the Yankees have too many ways to win that game. -120 is nice and cheap. So
yeah,
real simple. That's the pick for me.
Yeah. No, I think it's very, very solid. And like you said before, I gush about Luis Seal. I really do, because like that is like I feel like some of the Yankees' young pitching doesn't get enough credit for what it is, especially for how they started, right? Because we touched on it briefly last week as well. Clark Schmidt has been more than solid for the last year and a half. He just has been. He's been a very reliable starting pitcher. Is he an ace? No. But a middle-of-the-rotation guy that's going to give you innings? Absolutely. And Luis Gil, like you just said, I mean, there are days where, and again, it's most of his walks are piled into 1 or 2 starts, right? He never goes like 7 consecutive starts where he walks 5 or 6 guys. He doesn't do that, right? He has 3 great starts in a row where he walks 1, strikes out 9. Like, he's phenomenal. But then he has that 1 hiccup start once a month where he walks 8 and can't get through the 4th inning. Like that's usually his bugaboo there. So I gush about Luis Gil because I think his stuff, I think you're right, is that of an ace guy. And if they can reel in the command, I mean, and like I said, tomorrow night's game is on national television. Everybody's going to be able to see that game. So it, like, when you say coming out party, like that could mean a lot of different things for a young pitcher like that.
Yeah, I mean, and speaking of the walks, the fact that he only walked 1 in his last start, that's the guy I want to be betting on, right? Like that's the dude who's locked in. He rose to the moment in Baltimore. I think he'll rise to the moment at home against Houston.
Yeah, I agree. Great stuff, my friend. I think your performance was heightened by the hat, I think. It had a different energy about you today.
I think everything's heightened by this hat. I mean, look, the reason I'm betting it is because I, on a whim, took Mystic Dan. I put $20 on him. I won $392. I lose on the Kentucky Derby every single year, so that was pretty damn fun.
Cool.
Shout out to FanDuel for giving me like a $20 bonus bet if the bet loses, inspiring me to bet a whole 20 on a horse. But it was so funny. My wife and I were sitting there watching it. And we each just like, I picked the horse, put 20 on him. She picked the horse and put 10 on him. And we're both just sitting there like, we're just burning money, but let's just watch because we live in Louisville. And it was electric. So that was fun.
Yeah, man. It's got to be. It's got to be fantastic. All right. That does it for us. Another great episode of the Bicoastal Baseball Podcast here on the Grid Network, the only baseball podcast, the exclusive baseball podcast on the Grid Network. As for Dalton Brown, I am Mike Guido. This is, like I said, the Bicoastal Baseball Podcast every single Monday at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Catch us next week. We'll see you.